Hi friends, we're back for session 4, using meaning to read fluently. So I need you right now to stop reading, stop playing with things, get right next to the screen because it's really important that you are focused and learning. I'm going to count from 5 down to 1, and my expectation is your eyes are on the screen and you're ready to learn. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, thank you so much for being here and being ready to learn. Now that I see your bodies are ready, we can refocus on our lesson. Readers, did you notice that I used 2 different voices right then? When I wanted you to pay attention to the screen, I used a very firm voice, authoritative. And when you heard that tone, you immediately knew that I meant business. And you stopped doing whatever else you were doing. You sat down in your chair and you got ready to be learners, not just in your brain, but in your body too. And then when I started talking to you regular, you relaxed and realized that the same old Mrs. Littlejohn, she was just being really firm with you. I'm telling you this because readers need to study the way authors indicate the appropriate tone of voice to use when reading a text. Last time you studied the way this one cue, and I'm going to go ahead and draw it right now, can affect how you read a text. Do you remember what that's called? Who can tell me? So if I had no written in there, it'd be like this on the other side. Those are called quotation marks. Today you'll study other ways that authors let readers know how to read a text. So today I want to teach you that to read a book, even in your head, and to make it sound right, you have to consider what it's about. If you're telling your best friend bad news, your voice will sound different than if you're telling your friend about winning first place in a contest. When you know what the text is about, you can show it with your voice. So readers, when you were younger, reading meant figuring out the words on the page and saying them. But as you get older, reading means figuring out not only the words, but the actions, interactions, moods, and gestures that bring the text to life. Some of that will be spelled out by the author, but much of it requires knowing what is going on in the story. For example, read this out loud right now. You don't need to unmute yourself, just read that word out loud. Now, think about how you read that word. What did your intonation suggest that you meant? So try reading that same word no again, but this time you'll know how to read that word because it will come in the middle of a larger text. Okay, so I have a passage right here, and I'm going to reveal it slowly. Gonna zoom in a little bit. Go ahead and just spend a moment, just read it a little bit. So, this says, my dad got my brother and me tickets to a fancy circus. My brother wasn't that excited. He said, I don't think I'm going to go. My dad said, no, really? While looking into my brother's eyes. My brother looked unsure. He seemed to consider going to the circus after all. Then he shook his head and said, how are we supposed to read that right now? Raise your hand. I will pause the video. Raise your hand if you can tell me how we should read it. So just read that word to me like my brother said it. Yeah, there's a different feeling to that no than that no, isn't there? And maybe even different from the first time you read that no. I wasn't sure he meant it. I asked. How would we say this one? Has a question mark right after it. What do you think? Raise your hand if you have a way that you think we should read that. Right? No is different when we're asking a question. He signaled that he was definite. I repeated what I learned. It was final. How are we going to read that one? All these clues in the text here. Raise your hand if you can tell me how you would read that one. Nice work using what is happening in the text to help you figure out how to read this time around. You may have noticed the question mark right there, and there's uncertainty in the story, and you made your voices match that. So thumbs up if there are some words that gave you clues about how to read this word. Thumbs up if you used the word definite as a clue, and that helped you to match your voice to what was happening. How about the word final? Give me a thumbs up if that word helped you to signal how you should read that word no. Nice work. When you pay attention to what's really happening, it helps you to read with more expression. Let's keep going. My dad nodded. He was fine about it. Then it is, he said, smiling broadly. How would you say that no? Raise your hand if you can read that one to me. I'll call on 2 people. The dog approached and tried to climb onto my dad's lap. He pushed the dog down firmly. No, he said firmly, and the dog left the room. How would you say that no? Raise your hand. I'll call on 2 people. Did you hear how you had to fill in the no with different voices each time, even when the word looked exactly the same? Readers, my point is that you need to understand what is going on in a story to be able to read in ways that show the full meaning. And fluent readers notice not only what is being said, but how the author is telling you to read it. So now let's get back to Houndsley and Katina. So are you ready to try this with me now? So as we read, make your voice match how the author wants you to read it. Look for clues in the story to help you. I'll give you a minute to try and think about it, and then we'll hear an example. So I'm going to use pages 22, 23, and 24 that were in the cooking contest that we read last time. So 22. Just want to make sure you can see the whole thing. Houndsley had made his 3-bean chili many times before, but today everything went wrong. He dropped a can of tomatoes on his foot. He did not cook the rice long enough, and he forgot to put the beans in, all 3 kinds. When the judges came to taste his chili, they made faces. I think I broke a tooth on the rice, one of them said. I don't taste the beans, said another. Friends, together, I want to reread this part, making your voices match the mood of the text. So, I want you at your chair at home to practice reading these parts to yourself. After a couple minutes of practice, I'm going to call on a couple friends to read parts of these with the tone that the author and characters are sharing. All right, friends, now I'm wondering if we have somebody who might be willing to share with our whole group how they read a part of this story. And if you read the same part of this story as somebody else and you still want to share it, that's okay. I'm going to call on a bunch of kids, maybe even 10. That was really fun to hear. So readers, as you go off to read today, let's remember what we are learning from research scientists to help you improve and make the reading more fluent. I'm going to get out our chart again. And I've added something right here. It says, make your voice match the mood. So your work, readers, isn't just to read. No, it's to improve your reading by making it sound even better, even when you're reading it silently in your mind. You may want to think to yourself as you read, does my voice sound like what the story is trying to show? Does my voice match the mood? So today I am going to take a picture of this page, and on Seesaw, you're going to show me how you think a part of these pages should be read. I can't wait to hear it. Thanks, friends.